In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about changing that automated response you get when you get fear, phobia, or anxious, and changing it in such a way that it will no longer seem like such a big deal. Hi, I'm Christopher Paul Jones, the breakthrough expert. Now, there was a Russian research scientist called Ivan Pavlov, and what he discovered was he was doing experiments on dog saliva, and he would ring a tuning fork, feed a dog, ring a tuning fork, feed the dog, ring a tuning fork, feed the dog. Now, what happened eventually was he'd just ring a tuning fork and the dogs would salivate as if they're about to be fed, because in their mind, the tune was directly linked to food. Now, I have an example of this, my dog Lexi. When I first moved here, there's a cafe just outside. Now, I moved here a couple of years ago, where I'm speaking from now. And I took her past this cafe, and I do most times I'm walking her because it leads to the park. There's an outdoor section. My dog is very passive. My dog is very friendly with other dogs, always wants to play. But walked past this, and there was a vicious dog outside. It went for it, tried to start a fight, so my dog fights back. Second time I take the dog past. Dog out, same dog, wants to start a fight. Now, I have not seen that dog in 2 years. I pass it nearly every day, but you know what? If I walk past there in the day, at night, the place can be closed, my dog still gets into this state, ready to fight. And again, not a dog that normally does this. So it's really interesting that the dog has linked in its mind from those two bad experiences, potential danger here. Now, what's less well known about Ivan Pavlov, and there have been many other studies on this, what's called stimulus response or anchoring. He did some very unethical experiments on orphans. But what it did prove was that humans do exactly the same thing. And I'll give you an example. When I first started my business, and many of you who may have tried, it's interesting when you start your first business. I was inundated with bills. There was a lot less checks being paid and a lot more bills. So what happened over a period of time is I started to dread the post. Every time I'd hear that post box go, I'd get in this very worried, anxious state. Now, many years later, when this was no longer a problem, I was still getting in that state when I heard the letterbox, because I'd linked it in my mind. I'd conditioned response to it, I'd anchored it. And so I'm going to teach you how to change that. And this is the process I did on myself. So when do you get into this state? Now, a prime example for people, if you want to think about when you've had this happen, is you suddenly enter a place and the smell hits you, and the smell reminds you of your grandma, and you're suddenly back when you're 6, or it reminds you of a holiday you had, or something else. We have this all the time: smells, tastes, sounds. Another prime example, music is a very powerful anchor in people. So imagine the tune that was playing when you kissed the love of your life. Now, for years to come, whenever that music comes on the radio, you hear that tune, you are back there in your mind. You're smiling, you remember all those happy feelings. Now, the love of your life breaks up with you, there's a tune playing. Instantly, you hear that tune and you're back there. And you'll go, oh my God, I can't believe it. But what's also interesting, and this does happen with some of my clients, the tune might not have been even consciously aware. So they'll hear that tune and just get very sad, but they won't necessarily remember even where it came from sometimes. Now, songs are very powerful anchors. So of course, so are many other things. So for example, when we have a phobia or a fear or anxious, it's very often we've linked it in our mind to something. Let's say your mother freaked out at a spider when you were a baby. You're instantly conditioned in your mind saying spider means danger. My mum gets scared. And now whenever you see a spider, of course you might not be aware of that, you've got that conditioned response. The plane suddenly had turbulence. You've conditioned to go plane equals danger. And so while this has been known and taught in psychology for many, many years, it wasn't until fairly recently that there was a process for completely taking this out that was discovered. If you'd like to know how to actually change these responses, please watch the next video.